Hi there, and thanks very much for watching this video. If you are one of my students at Interhigh, great, I'm really glad you made it to the first video of the year. It's really important that you watch it all the way through. I know the temptation is sometimes to discount these things, but it's really important what I'm going to tell you here. If you're not one of the students that I teach, please join us anyway. This is going to be really useful to you. If you're studying history, no matter whether you're going to be studying some of the topic areas you're going to be doing throughout the year, I'm going to be doing a series of these videos throughout the year. They all go publicly on YouTube, cheap way of hosting it, to be honest with you, and so they're for everybody. Okay, so I have a particular philosophical approach to studying history, and I want to talk to you about this. It's good to make notes, perhaps even if you stop the video, get some pen and paper, a pad, your workbook, or maybe even some big thick post-it notes and a marker. A really good way of cementing some of the things we're going to be talking about. Basically, I'm not going to be talking about actual subject knowledge today. We're not going to get into that just yet. But I'm going to be talking about the basic principles of how you have to think about history in order to go far beyond the sort of the average marks, which we're not interested in, and excel all the way to the top. And the first principle I want to talk about is that you are now going to be an arguer, not a teller. It's okay, it's not okay really, but at GCSE you can get a far bigger share of the marks. They even discourage this at GCSE, but you can get a far bigger share of the marks by simply recounting factual knowledge, a list of what happened and when. Now, the reason why that's not going to help you here at A level is because the exams are specifically designed, and essays are specifically designed to draw out of you the ability to argue. So you need to have a very rich factual base in knowledge. So you need to have a huge store of information from the subject. But what the examiner really wants is a judgment. So you can look at facts and draw an opinion based on evidence from it. The good thing is that this is what human beings do all the time. Human beings look at the world around them, they take in the evidence that they see, and they draw interpretations and inferences from it. Just imagine the last time that somebody spoke to you. Normally they will have given you a judgment. What did you see on television last night? That's a question. I saw program A. Okay, that is a fact. I saw, X Factor. What I made of that, I liked it, I didn't like it, is the judgment bit. And what people will say is I didn't like it because. Okay, what's all this got to do with history? Well, to what extent was Napoleon Bonaparte influential in the development of German nationalism? One might argue he was important because, to a greater extent, because of these facts. You might suggest perhaps not. We're not there on the course yet, but anyway. So the point is that the evidence that we look at is merely the kind of the tools that help us to get towards judgment. And it's the judgment that you get most of your marks from, or making a series of clear judgments that make sense and that are supported by evidence, that's where most of your marks are going to come from in essays and in the exam. So that has to be the first game changer in your thinking if you are really back in that place where you are thinking about this being knowing lots of stuff. I mean, it is about knowing lots of stuff, but it's about doing something with that knowledge. It is about being able to critically evaluate. The next thing is about explaining. Here we are with history, trying to make sense of how historical change comes about. Explaining is not telling, okay? Telling is listing off a meaningless monologue. This happened, this happened, this happened, and then, and then, and then. That doesn't help anybody or mean anything. It's less important, more dull than a Wikipedia page. If you can explain why something happens, really what you're doing is you're selecting the most important point. If you look at an event such as the start of the First World War, there are so many different contributory factors that one has to prioritise and say, well, of these factors, it must have been this that was the most significant, the development of European empires, say. And there you can again bring in evidence to support the argument that you're making and to create a clear picture. If you're not explaining it, it means you're not being selective, you're simply listing. And listing doesn't make any sense. Again, if you were to go back to the analogy of the TV programme, someone says, why is it that X Factor is a popular programme? And if someone was then to simply say Anton Deck, Simon Cowell, whoever else is on the panel, blah blah blah, the Birmingham NEC, blah blah blah, and list a series of facts and factors that's related to it. That's not an explanation. An explanation might be, well, there's clear evidence that our culture is rotted from within, or something like that. But that is evidence of somebody selecting an idea and presenting it as the most significant factor. So first principle, we go from arguers to from being tellers to being arguers, and the second principle, we go from being listers to being explainers. So we are arguing and explaining, not telling and listing. We're here also to evaluate competing theories. We don't have a time machine. We can't go back into the past. We can't know what actually happened. And even if we did, more than one person went in a time machine to the past and saw, one of Napoleon's battles, what they would see is two different perspectives and come away with two different viewpoints. I think it was that the cavalry charged that Napoleon won. No, I think it was the artillery. That's what I saw. We don't even have a time machine. So all we have is not facts, but interpretations. If you go into any big bookshop and you go into the history department and you see all these huge, thick tomes on the walls, these eminent historians and professors writing book after book after book, they are vast collections of interpretations. Some of them very good interpretations, some of them not so good. There are more reliable interpretations and less reliable interpretations, but that's all they can ever be. They can't be anything else. They can't be empirical truths because we don't know, we haven't got a time machine. We simply have to look at the bits and pieces of evidence that history has left us and make as much sense of it as we possibly can do. So let's say, for example, we are looking at the reasons for German unification. We've got historians A, B and C, all of whom who have slightly different points of view. And a strong essay would help to go through these different points of view. It would evaluate them, saying, okay, well, there are basically three ways that you can look at this. View A, view B, view C. Of those three views, it looks to me as if there's most evidence supporting view B. Whilst view A and view C aren't completely wrong, they're just not quite complete. And this essay will help to explore that. Now, what I'm talking to you about here, the evaluation of historical theory, is what we call historiography. It's understanding what has been written on the subject and what has been written within the field before. And it's quite advanced stuff, so at this stage I don't want you to worry about it too much, but that's kind of where we want to be. So we want to be able to evaluate competing theories, to come to understand what is being said on a particular subject, why it's being said, and whether it's any good. We want to be able to go from telling to arguing, and we want to be able to go from listing to explaining. And over the course of the year, I'm going to upload a lot more videos like this that are going to help you to go on that little journey there. The final thing that's important to know is that history, in many ways, and it is definitely going to be this year with what I'm going to be teaching about Europe in the 19th and 20th centuries, is very much a history of ideas. There is a historian called Collingwood who said all history was simply the history of ideas. That means, I'm not sure whether that's a totally valid thing to say, but it certainly sounds good, doesn't it? But the idea that we're going to be looking at ideas, it really challenges you to grasp with things that are related to history, but perhaps slightly kind of beyond it. Really, I'm talking about thinking about political ideas, so ideologies such as nationalism, liberalism, socialism, anarchism, etc. Those are all going to relate to what we're doing. And we're going to look at how ideas change over time and how ideas start off within different groups of elite thinkers and intellectuals and writers, but then filter down to the rest of the population, and what happens when large numbers of people start to embrace new ideas and the change that results. So we're kind of going to be looking at the relationship between ideas and historical change. And again, that may sound difficult now and complicated now, but I don't want you to worry about that too much. I just want you to remember this concept because we're going to keep coming back to it. Okay, so in the next couple of weeks, what I'm going to do is create a video or two a week. We're going to focus on essay writing, how to craft introductions, how to develop the main body of an essay, how to create paragraphs, how to integrate historical evidence, and how to really build something that's absolutely rock solid. So we're starting from the ground up here. We're starting from basically having no knowledge. And the final point really is about that. There's an immense amount of worry that people go through when they start doing their A-levels. They think they have to be perfect, they think they have to be great, they think they have to be how they should be at the end of their A-levels, at the start of their A-levels, and that actually makes no sense at all. So embrace your unknowing at the moment. Don't worry about not being perfect. In fact, this is going to be one of the few times in your life when it's completely allowed and acceptable. So, take the ball and run with that one, I would. Also, we only ever get any good at anything at all by starting off as the imperfect article, by not being great, and by having, for want of a better word, mistakes along the way. There are really no mistakes at all. The only mistake is to not try. So I want you, if you're having any anxious thoughts or feelings about the course or about this video or about any of the big challenging things I've talked about in the last 15 minutes, to just put those to one side for now and embrace your right to be imperfect and to be on the starting grid and to not know. Because once you've accepted that you've got a right to be imperfect, and that's really going to be the starting point of your journey of learning, and you're going to make mistakes along the way, of course you are. There's going to be setbacks along the way. You're going to occasionally get a grade that you thought was a bit disappointing. Probably not too many of those, hopefully. And again, you've not got to worry about those at all. You've got to accept that this is part of how we learn and develop together. And hopefully, not only everyone on Interhigh, who I'm going to be teaching directly, but everybody else who tunes into these videos, we can try to work together as a team. I love to, if you're not part of Interhigh, to see what comments we can get below, and we can start a conversation. If you are my Interhigh guys, Make sure you make the right notes from this video, and if you need to stop it and go back through it, then do that. Keep these principles in a little workbook or a file or something like that, so you can return to it. And when you're facing essays down the line, you can look at the things I said here and use those principles to guide you. Anyway, catch you on the next video.